Hi everyone, and welcome to my episode on the festive tech calendar. My name is Viktor Hedberg, and today I'm going to show you guys how to implement, well, parts of a role-based access control system in Microsoft Defender, Microsoft 365 Defender, that is. So first things first, I wanted to introduce myself. I work as a cybersecurity consultant at a Swedish company called TrueSec. What we do is all things cyber, really. We perform proactive engagements, strengthening security postures, performing health checks, service assessments, stuff like that. But we also take part in a lot of cybersecurity forensics or cybersecurity incident responses. So we got a full-time CSERT team helping customers 24/7, basically. So introductions out of the way. I wanted to talk to you guys why I think that role-based access control is a big deal and why you should think about implementing it in your Azure Active Directory. So we all know that we have all these default built-in roles in Azure Active Directory, as you can see on the screen, with the ones like global administrator, security administrator, stuff like that. But when it comes to, well, role-based access control, these are quite blunt. You can't use them in a scoped sense. It's really all or nothing kind of deal. So if we look at security administrator, just to emphasize my point, we see under role settings that the description rather, sorry. This one can do a lot of stuff, and potentially it could adversely impact your environment if you choose to delegate this particular role to a lot of users, right? I'm not saying that this role shouldn't be delegated into your environment at all. I'm just saying that it might not be the best fit when it comes to dealing with alerts and incidents in Microsoft 365 Defender, due to the bluntness of these roles, actually. So if we head over to the security portal, we're gonna start looking at Defender for Endpoint and how to implement some sort of role-based access control in Defender for Endpoint. First things first, you obviously need to have either security administrator or global admin permissions to perform what I'm going to show you as a first step. So in Defender for Endpoint, we have got the permissions tab here, and under that we have got a section called roles. Now, in a brand new tenant, this would only be a single button stating that, would you want to enable role-based access control in Defender for Endpoint? Once you've clicked yes to opt into this feature, effectively all of the reader roles in Azure Active Directory becomes ineligible to actually read data inside of Defender for Endpoint or Microsoft 365 Defender correlated to Defender for Endpoint. Right, so I'm talking about security reader, global reader, those kind of roles, they become null and void, right? So once we've consented to or opted into using roles in Defender for Endpoint, we automatically get one of these roles created for us called Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Administrator. Now this is a built-in role and it cannot be changed, altered in any way, shape or form when it comes to what kind of permissions are granted to this role. However, as you can see here, we got a tab called Assigned User Groups. Now this is where we can start fiddling about with role-based access control, because here we can actually add our security groups from Azure Active Directory into this particular role. So as you can see, we have a couple of role security groups here. I'm not going to use any of these right now because I'm signing into this portal as my global administrator account. And as such, I have full control over Defender for Endpoint. But when it comes to segmenting these roles, or actually becoming even more granular with these controls, we can create our own roles in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So as you can see here, we have the Tier 1 Analyst's role created in my tenant, and it has scoped permissions on what it can do. So you can actually use this in accordance to how your security operations work. So the Tier 1 Analysts might not be able to perform all of the actions on a specific alert. You might want to escalate that alert to the next tier in your security operations center. So in this scenario, I only granted the permissions on the screen here for my Tier 1 Analysts. They can view active remediation actions, security operations, threat and vulnerability management. Yeah, that's basically what they can do. And as you can see, under assigned user groups, we've actually already added an Azure AD security group here. If we're looking at under the Tier 2 Analysts, I've already went ahead and created this role as well. We've added the alerts investigation option for the Tier 2 Analysts. And we've entered a security group as a member of these roles. Right, so when you're looking at, we're using the security groups in Azure Active Directory to govern access to the particular roles in Defender for Endpoint, we kind of want to make sure that these groups are up to standard when it comes to security as well. So let me just go ahead and create a new dummy group right here. Right, so we have this option here called Azure AD roles can be assigned to the group. Now what this does is that it creates a privileged access group, or PAG. This means that only global administrators and privileged role administrators can actually edit the membership of this group. Because as I said, you can use any security group in Microsoft Defender for role-based access control, but you don't want to use your default security groups created directly into Azure Active Directory. And I'll tell you why. Because those security groups can be administrated by the groups administrator, user access administrator, stuff like that. So you don't want ineligible personnel to update the membership of these roles or these groups, and in the same effect, updating the membership of these roles. Once we flick the switch to yes, we can never use a dynamic query to populate the membership of this role. And I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the line, we always want a human to make the decision on whether or not this particular individual should be a part of this role. We can, of course, select an owner, select members right off the bat, but the thing is here that we're not going to add this particular group into an Azure Active Directory role. So we're just going to create it like this, with this tab flicked to yes. So if we head back into my demonstration tenant, we can see that we have this one RBAC _PIM_MDE, which was used in the security center for governing access to Defender for Endpoint. So if we're looking at this, we can see under properties that yes, this is a privileged access group, meaning that, of course, I as a global admin, I can update the membership, but my colleague who's only a user access administrator cannot. And looking at privileged access, we can see that the eligible assignments are the second group, the guys who are eligible to become members into this group actually are the members of this group called Demo PIM MDE. Looking into that group, sorry, wrong way around, we can see that we have a user here called Ben. So what Ben can do, in the sense of he's a member of this group called Demo PIM MDE, is that he can actually ask to become a member of this group, which is the one coupled to our Tier 2 analyst's role in Defender for Endpoint. So let's have a look at how that flow would work. So let me just start a private session here. Portal Azure. I forgot my password of my user. And of course, my user Ben can't actually sign into because I forgot the password. Hang on, let me reset the password for good old Ben here. So yeah, let's use that temporary password. Demo gods are not with me today. Okay. Let's verify our identity using an SMS. Kind of goes to show that, you know, you live as you learn, because I'm locking myself out of my environment on a daily basis, basically. So let's create a random password here for good old Ben. Yes, we want to stay signed in. All right, so now we're signed into the Azure portal as Ben. And as we can see here in privileged identity management and privileged identity management and privileged access groups, we can see that we have the option to elevate our permissions, elevate our membership into this RBAC_PIM_MDE group. So let's go ahead and activate that. Let's see here. Give this a couple of seconds to actually activate. And in the meantime, I can let you guys know that this feature is in public preview right now, so it's available in all of your tenants. One caveat that I've found so far is that in some cases the PRT does not get revoked once your membership is actually revoked from the group. So make sure to use like continuous access evaluation in conjunction with any of these features to make sure that, you know, Ben can't actually access Defender for Endpoint portal as an admin while he's not entitled to it, right? So yeah, let's see. Active assignments, we can see that, yay, we're a member of the RBAC_PIM_MDE role group. And as we can see here in our Azure Active Directory tenant, looking at the RBAC PIM MDE group, we can see that Ben is now a user or member of this role. So let's toggle back to our in private session. Signing into the security portal. And now we can see that we actually got a couple of devices in the device inventory. We got a couple of servers, 2 domain controllers. One of them is actually decommissioned. I need to be better with the lifecycle management in my own demo environment. But as you can see here, we've got an Azure AD joined device. And another thing with this, I'll get to it in a minute, but as you can see, we have a tag here called tier 2, meaning that the only guys that can actually access these devices are the ones in the tier 2 role. And when I say access, I actually mean these kinds of, security operations actions. But as you can see, the initiate live response session is actually grayed out. We can't perform a live response session. And that's because we don't have that permission built into the tier 2 analyst role in this case. So yeah, when it comes to Defender for Endpoint, that's one thing to have in mind. Let me show you guys what I talked about when it comes to the tagging part of it. So in the device group part of Defender for Endpoint, we can actually tag devices to have better conjunction with the roles we have assigned to them. So as you can see, we have the tier 1 device group. It's coupled to the other security group that I showed you guys earlier. And we have the tier 2 device group coupled to the RBAC PIM MDE device security group, sorry. So looking at this, we can see that we need to have a tag equals to tier 2. And if the device in Defender for Endpoint has this tag, it automatically gets added to the device group that we're creating. Looking at preview devices, we should see, yeah, there we have the AAD joined laptop. And user access, you need to be a part or a member of this RBAC PIM _ MDE group to actually get access. So looking at this default device group that's always created, and this is basically, a last resort, just to make sure that no device is left ungrouped in Defender for Endpoint. We can see that we have 4 devices in here. And if we look into our device inventory once more, I actually don't have that many devices on board at all. But going back 6 months, yeah, we got some other devices as well. So looking at this domain controller, which I know that is not a part of the tier 2 group. So we're actually not, right, as you can see, the initiate live response session is actually lit up here because we haven't told the device group to actually incorporate this device, and we haven't created a device group for the device value high devices, right? So this can become quite tricky quite easily, but to get a sense of, how to do it, the same kind of scenario actually plays out here as well. So if we were to create like a device group for all the devices with the device value high, only strictly limiting the permissions to a specific security group, my tier 2 analysts wouldn't be able to actually perform any sort of actions on the device value high endpoints. Right, so that kind of sums up, how to implement this for the endpoints. When it comes to Defender for Office 365, I'm sad to say, but we don't actually have that kind of granularity just yet. If you look here under permissions and roles, you'll see that email and collaboration roles, these are the ones built into Exchange Online Protection or Exchange Online Admin Center, as well as the superseding roles in Azure Active Directory. So we could, of course, create a specific role funneled towards, only being able to creating or disabling Defender for Office 365 policies. But as of now, we don't have any smoother kind of way to do it, sad to say. Fingers crossed for, a Christmas present from Microsoft, allowing us to do just that. When it comes to Defender for Identity, however, so these three roles right here, the Azure ATP administrators, users, and viewers, they are created automatically once you've actually started to, you've created your instance of Defender for Identity. And we can kind of apply the same kind of thinking towards these groups as we did with the device role groups in Defender for Endpoint. Now let me show you what my thinking is here. So if we're looking at the Azure ATP administrators group, we can see that the only membership we have here is another group. So you need to be eligible to add yourself as a member in the AAD role MDI administrator group in order to become a member in the Azure ATP administrator group to start with. So let's try to navigate to the atp.azure.com portal in the context of our user Ben. And as you can see, Ben does not have permission to access this page. So we need to actually go back to PIM, elevate ourselves for MDI. Provide a perfectly good reason why we do it. And wait for PIM to actually elevate ourselves as a member of this group. You could, of course, not use PIM in order to govern access like this. I strongly recommend you to at least look at using PIM to perform these kinds of segregation of duties, because we don't want standing access, whether it's for Defender for Identity or our global admin roles, right? We want to try to limit these roles as much as possible. And that's why you should always use cloud-only accounts when it comes to administrative purposes. So most of you guys probably are using like a hybrid environment where you've got your Active Directory on-prem, you've got your Azure AD Connect syncing your users from on-prem up to Azure. But you should never ever delegate any permissions to a synchronized account. And I think that kind of goes without saying, but the attack vectors become even bigger when it's a synchronized account, right? And I actually got an interesting pointer from Alex Simmons on Twitter the other day, stating that, oh, how should we think about licensing when it comes to the P2 features or P2 functionality? So traditionally, we've always said that your cloud-only users, your cloud-only admins, should at least have an Azure Active Directory P2 license assigned to them. But now it seems that that's not actually necessary. So you only need one license per human. So if I, as a human, have like 3 accounts, I'm actually entitled to use the feature set for all those 3 accounts based on the fact that all these accounts are mine. my accounts. So I'll try to some way convey that message from Alex Simmons on Twitter to you guys, so you guys can see it for yourself and not just take my word for it. Let's see. I really should have thought this through prior to starting recording this. So here we go. From Twitter, straight from the from the mouth of Alex Simmons. So good news, Legal and our licensing guru were able to quickly close on this. You only need one license per human. If the human is using 2 accounts, then one license covers both accounts. So that's it. You don't need to worry about overspending on Azure Active Directory P2 or E5 licenses in your environment, just to stay safe in this regard. Back to our demonstration, right? So we've successfully elevated ourselves as a member to the AAD role MDI administrator group. Circling back to the Defender for Identity portal, just hit a refresh here. Sorry, need to cut that one out. Might take some time. Let's try to access this once more. The demo gods. So let's look into the membership of our group. And we can see that Ben is actually a member right now. Oh, let's do it like this. Oh, sorry. That's not the way. Let's try another in private browsing. SMS 2FA sure beats not having 2FA. No, I don't want to improve my sign-ins right now. And here we go. We only needed a fresh token, basically. And as you can see, we actually have the full range of administrative privileges in our MDI environment. Yes, I know my DC is offline, but that's because of reasons. And yeah, as you can see, the difference is quite clear. Before getting access, after getting access, right? And from here we can perform all administrative administrative things you'd like to do in MDI. So to kind of wrap things up about how and why I think this is important, well, as I said, the built-in roles are overprivileged. So you need to find your kind of way with dealing with that. As I said, I'm not saying that security administrator shouldn't be used at all. I'm just saying that, try to limit the number of security administrators in your organization by using role-based access control instead. And we actually got a new feature, came out in public preview just yesterday, actually. If you're looking into your Azure Active Directory tenant right now, you'll see the feature flag for custom security attributes being available. I'm sincerely hoping that we can start using these security attributes for attributes-based access control. I know the feature in preview right now allows for attributes-based access control towards Azure storage, and I hope they really expand the scope of the ABAC portion of it all. So yeah, that kind of sums up what I had in mind to show you guys. Feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn page, on my Twitter page, whatever. And in the spirit of holiday, I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, depending on where you live. And if you don't celebrate Christmas at all, well, you know, Happy New Year, I guess. So yeah, this has been a short video on how to implement role-based access control in Microsoft 365 Defender, and I hope you enjoyed it.